So there is this streamer out there named Hasan. I'm sure many of you know who he is. Some of you probably like him. Others might hate him. Like many political figures online, he is polarizing. You see, Hasan has been around this internet game for quite some time, and over the years he has become increasingly more progressive with his views. And at this point I would describe him as basically alt-left. Like even Ethan Klein, who has become very much a leftist, couldn't deal with his nonsense.
Actually, you know what? Go listen to Hasan. People say, I need to go listen to Hasan. This is bullshit. Please, go listen to Hasan.
And over the past couple of days, Hasan has now been going viral on Twitter. After he made the take that streaming is harder than any other job, at least from a social battery draining standpoint.
Yes, a real job can be gruesome. A real job can make you very tired. But a real job doesn't suck the soul out of you. You know what I mean? In the same way that 9 hours of streaming absolutely will.
Now, just off the bat, I find his take to be not only very privileged, but also just not based in reality. And with this being Hasan, and so many people disliking him, anytime he gives people this type of ammo with just a stupid take, it's essentially like that scene from SpongeBob where it's like, how many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man? You know, everyone gets their turn with the beating stick, and they're essentially just passing this guy around, completely trashing him. Now, in response to that clip going viral, this is what Hasan had to say. It is wild how this completely out of context clip made its way to Twitter so fast. I was talking about how much a 9-hour stream eats away at my social battery, and how I can't socialize after. Comparing it to my sales job before, I recognize how fortunate I am every day. And he also posted this longer clip that I guess is supposed to provide some sort of context.
Social battery wise, unless you're in retail, it's very different. You're out of touch. I'm gonna die, dude. There's motherfuckers who are accountants in here and they're misunderstanding what I'm saying. A real job does not expend your social battery in the same fucking way as someone who did a sales job, a real job. Okay, I'm telling you, as someone who did both, like 9 hours of constant performance and people pleasing taps you out from social scenarios. After 9 hours of that, I could probably fucking physical labor. It would not bother me, but I can't do more social shit. That's my point.
I mean, to me, the context here makes him look even more out of touch. Like, obviously, every single job is going to have its pros and cons. Like, for me, my job can be kind of the opposite. My job can be very socially isolating. Sometimes I can go all day without really talking to anyone. You gotta spend a lot of time on the computer. But I also understand that that's pretty much the way it goes for any job where you have to work at home. And I'm also not going to sit here and say, oh, my job is so much harder than someone else's because it is socially isolating. And also, let's be honest, you're not performing for 9 hours, dude. I mean, most of this guy's job is just watching YouTube videos and giving his political take. Like, half the time, I'm pretty sure this guy isn't even in the room, okay? The video's just playing and he goes off to do whatever the fuck he wants.
There are obviously real jobs out there that are good comparisons. Service sector, people-pleasing jobs would be very similar. Those are like, I think, customer service type shit. But like if you're an accountant or if you're even like in sales, my interactions with clients was limited, way more limited than like constantly having to do this for 9 hours with like a back and forth interaction for 9 hours. That's what like sucks your social battery and you just tap out after it.
You know, I would love to see Hasan try and do door-to-door sales or maybe some sort of cold calling and see how fast that type of job would suck the soul out of him. Pause. I mean, at the end of the day, dude, you are a millionaire sitting in a mansion reacting to YouTube videos, farming millions of dollars from your audience. And obviously, with this being Hasan, people began to make the typical arguments that they're going to say against him because he does present himself as a socialist online. They say Hasan Piker taking a private jet to Coachella because he's a principled anti-capitalist. And that's always kind of been a talking point against this guy because he does live in a mansion, he drives several fancy cars, he's out here apparently taking private flights, and what they're essentially saying is, yeah, dude, you hate on capitalism all the time, you act like you're some big socialist, but then in your free time you choose to indulge in capitalism as much as you can. My guy Mudahar comes in with his take where he says, streaming is by far the easiest, most privileged jobs one can have. If you're successful, the rewards far outweigh any of the negatives. Facts. Compare it to any service job, cybersecurity or nursing, you'll find something actually exhausting. And now this guy comes in with his take about Mudahar's take where he says, fuck it, I'm doing bad faith arguments. Give a nurse or a cybersecurity expert a camera and tell them to talk about politics in front of 20,000 people for 9 hours a day, every day for a year, and see how long they can go before they quit from harassment or lose viewership cause they suck. You'll see a lot of comments on Twitter trying to defend Hasan in this way, and to me it's just such a stupid argument because they don't take account that he's making millions of dollars to do so. Like, this is almost the equivalent of me telling a school teacher who's complaining about their salary, yeah, well, you go play shortstop for the New York Yankees, you go play power forward for the Lakers, let's see how you fucking like it. Like, at the end of the day, doing streaming as a job when it comes to the pay versus the amount of effort you have to put in, especially for like these top level streamers who have already made it and are getting like millions of dollars a month. And I would say it's a very fair assessment that they're all very privileged. I mean, I'm extremely privileged in my job. I'm not too out of touch where I can't recognize that. Like, you want to talk about mentally exhausting, you want to talk about socially draining. Like, I have friends who work out in the oil field. I'm talking about 12-hour shifts on their feet. I'm talking about missing birthdays, missing holidays, working with a bunch of felons. So if I were to sit here and say like, oh, my job is so hard because it's socially isolating. My job is so hard because I get tired of doing the same thing every day. Like, if I were to say those things, I would feel like a bitch. Because I know how hard some of my friends are working. I know people who are completely educated, with years of work experience, who cannot find a job right now. And so with this situation, Hasan is going to take his moment to kind of lean into the bait, where someone says, what's harder than this? And obviously this just looks like a disgustingly terrible, grueling job to have, no matter how much money you're making to do it. And Hasan says, sarcastically, that Twitch streaming is harder. Okay, kind of just poking fun at all the quote-unquote haters out there. Now, another popular streamer out there, Osmongold, stepped in to give his take on the situation.
Imagine giving a presentation for 9 hours straight. It's like, after a while, you would be like, I don't want to talk.
Or the department manager just occasionally is just like, hey, you suck, bitch. Bald ass bitch, you fell off, huh? We're gonna remember this in your performance review. You fat fuck. Stupid ass.
Oh my god, guys, can you believe that random people online type mean comments? Like, this guy is years into the internet game and he's gonna really try and act like negative comments or mean people online bother him. Like, I get that it is a big part of Twitch to interact with your chat, but I feel like if you're gonna be a figure on the internet, pretty early on you have to learn to not really give a fuck about what anyone says, whether it's good or bad. Like, people are gonna praise you when you're up and try and take you out when you're down, but you can't really give a fuck because that's kind of just the nature of the beast. It kind of just comes with the job.
He says that he gets exhausted socially because he's talking to people for 9 hours a day. You really think that's not true?
People aren't saying it's not true. I think people are just saying you don't really have the right to complain about it when the pros outweigh the cons so much, and the pros in this situation being that he's a fucking millionaire, sitting in his house all day, still making millions of dollars for a very minimum amount of effort.
I mean, you really think it's not true that after you spend 9 hours being investigated by thousands of people with every facial movement, everything you say, every word, with people constantly trying to disagree with you and fight with you, that's not socially draining?
I mean, Osman, you can't even clean your room, dude. You are a multi-millionaire who refuses to hire a maid, and you just choose to live in filth. You choose to have a pet cockroach. Like, I'm sorry, but anyone who chooses to live like this, especially who has the means not to, I can't really take anything they say seriously. Like, my grandmother always told me it cost nothing to be clean. Like, there is no excuse to be a dirty motherfucker. I just think when some of these guys want to give like a real world point of view, they end up coming off brain dead because they are so out of touch with reality when it comes to the actual jobs people have to work, the actual stresses of life. especially right now with the current state of the economy, the housing market, compared to what people are getting in return at these jobs in form of payment. Like, most people are not going to want to hear this shit. They don't want to hear about your little, oh, woe is me story while you're raking in millions. And they can't afford their rent. They can't afford to buy groceries. They can't afford to go out and do anything fun. Like, I know so many people my age who are completely educated. They tried to do everything right, everything the way the system told them to do it, and now they just feel completely screwed. Like, they're still having to live with their parents and they're approaching 30 years old. They don't own a house. All they really have is debt to their name. Like, they don't want to hear your privileged ass hot takes from your nasty ass room. But I genuinely want to know what you guys think about this whole situation down below. How do Hasan's comments make you feel? Do you think there's some merit in what he's saying? Either way, I do want to thank you guys for watching today's video, dropping a like and subscribing. But as you guys know, it's been your boy the Tan Superman, and some other out of touch influencers out here need to be covered, so I'm out. Peace!